Welcome to the Life in Michigan podcast. Life in Michigan is more than an online magazine. We share the stories, experiences, and vibrant personalities that make the Great Lakes state truly unique. In this podcast, we bring you inspiring, heartwarming, and sometimes unexpected conversations with people who call Michigan home. From the rugged beauty of the Upper Peninsula to the bustling creativity of Kalamazoo, we'll cover the stories and define what it means to live, work, and play in Michigan. What does it take to survive and thrive for nearly 2 decades in the ever-shifting Michigan craft beer scene? In this episode, we sit down with Kickstand Brewing Company's head brewer, Adam Barata, to get his take on this question. Adam, welcome to the Life in Michigan podcast. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me aboard for this conversation.
Awesome. You know, we've run across you many times over the years over at the Michigan Brewers Guild's various events, and actually in a number of different breweries. You know, you were over at, I think you started at Redwood, maybe? And then,
yes, that's correct.
Yeah, and then you were at 51 North and Axel Brewing for a while, and now Kickstand.
Yep. You missed one.
Oh, which one?
The Great Baraboo.
The Great Baraboo.
Oh. So that's actually how I got my first head brewer job and a little bit of reputation in the Detroit metro area as far as for brewing. It was really suffering at the time. The gentleman I took over for was a pizza chef and thought he could just follow a recipe. Didn't understand the cleaning aspects of it. And I was fortunate enough to learn from Bill Wamby how to clean and went in there and cleaned the place up. And it's kind of, again, how I got my reputation.
Nice. Very nice. So what was your, going back all the way, like, how did you get into craft beer? Do you remember the very first beer you ever had that was crafty?
I do. And I actually got to talk to the original brewer from Sierra Nevada about this.
Oh, really?
I lived near Michigan, was a brewing company, I think. Michigan, in Weberville.
Yeah.
So I was actually living in Hazlitt, Williamston area. My friend was starting to work there. I started getting into homebrew, and one of the first Sierra Nevada pale ales I have ever had, I looked at my bartender and said, "This is shit. Can I have my $2 back?" Kind of dates me on the time, and he gave me a porter instead because they were running a special on Sierra Nevada, and I went, "Oh wow, this is amazing. Keep the $2. We're good, you know." And when I told the gentleman from Sierra Nevada that, he looked at me like, "Oh my, who's this asshole I'm sitting next to?" And when I told him how much I loved the porter, it made him smile, and he said, "Yeah, I wrote that recipe, and that was one of my favorite beers." So it created that conversation, but I kind of shocked him, I think, when I first started talking to him. But Sierra Nevada Pale was like one of the most memorable. Couldn't stand it. Didn't like hops at the time.
Yeah.
And when I found porters and dark beer, it was just like that aha moment for me.
Yeah. You know, that is pretty similar to me, because when I first had a Sierra Pale, I was actually on the West Coast, had one, and a Pete's Wicked Ale, and it was horrible. I was like, why is this so bitter and nasty? And now, my taste has evolved over time, but anyway, yeah, I had a similar experience with Sierra.
And once your taste buds change a little bit, you start tasting and sipping more IPAs and heavier hop beers. Like your palate kind of craves that at some point.
Yeah.
I always tell people, if you sip something every day for 30 days, you're eventually going to get a craving for
it. I like that. So what got you into brewing? How did you get into
brewing? I fell into it. I was just luck of the draw, right place, right time. I got a friend that I was working with at a shop for RVs and motorhomes. Taught him how to homebrew. I was kind of falling out of it at that time because I just bought a house, was busy, was frustrated with work, all the above, and I gave him my last porter that I had made. And he came back the next day and said, "You made that? That was wonderful. Like, teach me how to brew." So I taught him what I knew, which was just the basics, mostly extract or kind of soaking grains. It wasn't all grain. It wasn't the really brewing as, nerds like us say that nowadays.
Yeah.
I taught him more, as much as I knew, and he came back and kept asking me questions, and I'm like, "Look, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Let's start brewing together, because now I'm curious, and you got the bug going with me." So we started home brewing, and we threw in a few beers at awards, and like he was just absolutely killing the awards on the homebrew side. And I had a couple lucky events myself. So he got into Redwood Lodge prior to me as the third brewer, the second assistant. And once we kind of knew the end of 2008, it just didn't look like the economy was going to keep up. We were getting waves of layoffs at the shop. Um, I worked with my dad, but like not for my dad,
Yeah.
and it was great to be able to work with him. And I got hit on the third round of layoffs, and writing was kind of on the wall that they were going to eventually sell out to larger manufacturer and then just kind of move on. They had lost the president, vice president, and a few other like high end members of that corporation. I think just the rest of the family was tired of it and wanted to
Yeah.
get out. And when that happened, my friend Bill Gertz, he was in the Michigan brew scene for quite a while, ended up going down to Arbor Brewing Company, called me the day we got laid off, and he's like, "You want this job? Like they're willing to bring you on." I knew the brewers, and I'm just like, "No, I kind of want to sit on unemployment and go hunting for a little bit." You know, 5 minutes later, I'm like, "Wait a second! Like this is an opportunity. I always wanted to get into brewing. You know, what the hell? Let's do it." So it was a part-time job. I took it, loved it. Did everything I could do to fight for hours, and like it got to a point to where I really needed a paycheck. I needed to find a full-time job, and that's when I really started looking at a
Wow.
full-time job. Yeah.
Awesome.
So we missed several in there because you were at Arbor Brewing too.
No, that was Bill Gertz.
That was Bill.
That was the guy that threw me into Redwood.
Okay, all right, got it.
Yep. Yep, I had several opportunities. We did a collaboration at Redwood Lodge with Arcadia Brewing Company. What was called Rapunzel. That was a wheat IPA, I believe, and we did that for the Chicago World Beer Cup. Um, if you did a collaboration with another Michigan brewery or a pub that couldn't distribute, then a bar down to Chicago would put your beer on tap as well as a second beer from them. So it was a way for us to even get on the scene.
Yeah.
We were lucky enough at Redwood Lodge to take a silver that year, and it was just such a fun time going down to Chicago with the brew crew and just meeting new people, learning what it's like to have new friends in the industry. You meet new people, and it was just a wonderful experience all around.
Yeah.
And Norm from Cheers was our guest speaker, and he
Awesome.
just nailed it. Like, and it was such a nice guy. I got to meet him on the streets of Chicago, and
Oh man.
yeah, just a wonderful experience.
Wow. That's awesome.
So how many years have
Norm.
you been in brewing? How many?
It's almost sad to say, but almost 18. It's like 17 and a half years, I think.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah, it seems like the years are just flying by.
That's fantastic.
It is. It is. So you talk about years. Kickstand just crossed the incredible 10-year milestone earlier this year.
Yep.
And, we just talked about in an industry where tastes change from season to season, what do you think it has been the secret there at Kickstand that keeps your fan base so loyal?
Clientele. Clientele and area of location, I think, is the biggest thing, because we're in an area, it's a lake community. There's a lot of lakes around, a little bit older clientele than your normal, but we get just such a huge variety of age groups. But I think the larger age group is a little bit on the, I don't want to be rude by saying the older side, and that kind of it puts our styles a little bit different than a lot of different breweries, and we cater to that. It's our bread and butter. A lot of them come in not just for beer, but we're a full restaurant as well, and I think that overall helps keep us in the forefront of the local economy and local area.
Yeah, because you guys, we've been there before, and the food is awesome as well as the beer. But it's a win-win combination. That's for sure.
Yep, and these guys do a fantastic job of overall business. They've got departments kind of set up, and the way they run it, it's departmentalized, but everything comes together really well on the front of the house.
Yeah, awesome. And
So
oh, go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Chuck. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say that you guys have been there in it's Commerce Township, right, where you guys
That's
are located?
correct.
Yeah, for 10 years. And when you said that you've got a clientele, do you feel like the community itself? Do you feel like the engagement from Kickstand into the community is helping to like keep you stable and potentially growing?
It's kind of plateaued. We've I don't want to say haven't grown, but we're very steady. Numbers are steady. Things kind of are at that point to where they've built such a good relationship with the community. The owners are locals, so that really helped kind of solidify us in the community. And they just like I say, they really knock it out of the park when it comes to all three: food, service, and beer.
Yeah,
When you can have a combination like that at any place, it's successful.
yeah,
And I think just continuing to be, I guess, I don't know how to say it, but we've been very consistent. Consistency has been our key.
yeah. It's sort of like having a reliable. Like, so we have this, here in Ann Arbor. There's certain places we will go, right? We're gonna go there because we know we're gonna get a particular experience. We know we're gonna get great food. We know we're gonna get great service and beverages. The whole gamut, and you kind of get used to you look for those reliable businesses, right? That
Right.
that has to impact you guys too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Our go-to place here is Ipsy Ale House.
Mhm.
Yeah, you go in and you're there 2 hours. You talk to everybody in there, and the food's good. I mean, it's good, solid food. They got beers, they got, it- wine. Sometimes that helps too, because not everybody in your party likes to,
100%.
just drink. Yeah. So, that kind of when you talk about it. But then I think of Sister Lakes. We were just out at Sister Lakes Brewing. Where that's in Dowagiac.
Yeah,
I'm not
Dowagiac. Yeah,
familiar with that one.
Oh,
yeah. Brian Moran.
Right.
right.
His family owns the place. His dad and his brothers and him. And he's the brewer. But yeah, they're out in Dowagiac, and they've got that same kind of thing where it's like a lake community,
Hmm.
and they just pull. They've got a bunch of regular folks to just want to come hang out there. Again, food, service, and beer, and I think that's kind of a window, like a winning combination.
Yeah, it really is. And the marketplace has changed absolutely so much that
Yeah,
you almost need it
yeah,
to really continue to be a successful business and to draw more than just beer drinkers. Because just like myself, I haven't traveled to many breweries in the last 7, 8, maybe even up to 9 years since I got married and had a kid. It changes everything. I used to be a free spirit and just say, hey, you know what? I want to go on the other side of the state and go to 5 breweries. And I don't have that ability in my life right now to do it as much. So I've missed out on a lot of the newer breweries that have opened up in the last 7 to 10 years, unless
Yeah.
you're close to my residence or
in,
within my travels and put it
right
that way.
in your
Yeah.
neck of the woods.
So you guys are going to open a new space though. That's
Yeah,
coming up.
correct.
You
Yep.
want to tell us about that?
Sure. They ended up picking up the facility of the old Draft Horse Brewing Company,
Hmm.
and we're looking hopefully end of August, September, somewhere within that window, with everything, the permits and contractors and everything being put together at this moment. Uh, we're doing as much as we can just to get the building ready and be ready. As soon as they tell us that we can go, we're going to go.
Nice. So what was the draw for that? I mean, it was just the space. What was the what drew
These,
you guys?
and this is just personal opinion. These
Hmm.
guys are very aggressive on running business, and they understand how to run business. We had looked at a second facility multiple times, and I think their goal is to get 2 to 3 facilities and just be a functioning small chain. And it's just their business mindset, I think, is what really pushed them to do this. And I don't think it was so much as seeking out that particular space as a space of opportunity.
Yeah,
They've seen an opportunity. They like the deal that they got. They seen the amount of growth of buildings, apartments, condos, and other living facilities in the area, and it was just kind of a no-brainer. Hey, we think we can get this facility going and run it kind of like we're running now.
yeah,
Um, it's going to be an eye opener and hopefully a great opportunity for us.
yeah.
So are you gonna like have different tap lists like at the place?
They're going to be similar. Part of the reason is that we're far enough away that we think that we can still focus on our flagship beers there. We may decide later to, if we have the ability, to put only one beer on there, one beer on at this facility. But right now, we're just kind of going to feel it out. We're going to start with our main layout and just kind of go from there. See what the customers want, see what the customers drink, and then from there, you can kind of tell overall what you need to do to cater to that facility other than this facility. But I think that's going to be very similar overall. Not sure food wise, I really haven't got on that same page with them on what they're going to do, if it's going to be the same or if they're going to try a different theme. But again, most likely it's going to be very similar.
So when you're thinking about, okay, we're gonna have two locations, how do you think your life as the brewer, are they gonna bring on another brewer for that space? Are you gonna just brew in both places? Like, how's that gonna work in your world?
Still, we'll feel it out. We're probably going to have to bring somebody on, but whether it's on the brewing side or more the cellarman side, most likely it's going to be on a cellarman position. Somebody that can take a little bit of relief off me, transferring, washing, organizing the cooler, keeping the lines clean, just fundamentals. Clean, clean, clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that is the key. That's when you know you. That's another. That's actually like a fourth component, really, because you think about service, you think about food, and you think about quality beverages. But if the place isn't clean, particularly the line, the draft lines, it's that ruins it. I was just at where the hell were we? Oh, we were in Grand Rapids, and the the hotel we were staying at had some, you know,
Oh
uh,
yeah, that's right.
draft beers. And I knew as soon as I got it, I was like, they've not cleaned this because it was just gross. And it was, it was a well known beer, right? I won't name the brand because I don't want to disparage it. It wasn't the beer at all. It was the facility.
That's a lot of the places. It's unfortunate. Seen some really, 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 really nasty lines.
Yeah.
When you even some places that have their lines clean, supposedly paying somebody to do it. I've come in to help friends. You take their faucets apart and they're plugged with bacteria. Some people, when they say they clean the lines, they literally only clean the lines. They don't look at the faucets. They don't look at the couplers. They don't look at the other aspects of what it is to clean the entire line. Um, it's it can be pretty nasty,
Yeah.
and I think now that they've classified beer as a food grade item, that they really have to start looking at what are you going to do to control all the bars and facilities. I know the health department's been taking up and at least swabbing some of them for harmful bacteria,
Yeah.
but it's not the harmful bacteria that gives you all the off flavors all the time. Because of the pH of the beer, you usually get diacetyl and other bacteria that can form the butter flavors, the oxidization, and the other thing is people don't realize vinyl is a very porous product. So if you put in better lines, you're not going to have as much of a problem. But vinyl, after so many years, it's going to absorb any bacteria that's in there if you don't keep them clean.
Yeah, that's for sure. So, we've been kind of talking a little bit about just we've mentioned different beer tastes, over the last, so basically, in the mid 90s through probably about the time you started, that's when like craft beer was at its peak, I think. People were just going crazy for beer. Craft
Yeah,
beer in particular, you had places opening up and not doing a great job, but some places did. IPAs, had been all the rage and were the rage, and then hazy and all this stuff. So, I think today's tastes have changed quite a bit. I know mine have just personally. I've gone away from IPAs. I still enjoy them, but not I don't drink them as much. I'm more like into the, a Czech Pills or something like that. Um, how have you seen from Kickstand, in your point of view, the palette of consumers changing?
I haven't seen as much here as I did the beginning of my career. At Kickstand, I mean, we put on a hazy IPA. This went over fairly well. I brought a West Coast IPA, and that seemed to go over fairly well. So the younger clientele and some of the people that are really into craft beer have taken that. But your average customers, they've got their favorite beer. They don't stray very far. If they come in for the amber or the porter or some of the darker beers that really in our triple Belgian, it's kind of that same thing where once you love that beer or once you consider that one of your favorite products, you don't want to change, and they don't. They come in very consistently for that same product every time. You can entice them with a sampler or two. Maybe their first pint will be different, but like always go back to that same one. Some of the more unique ones, the fruited beers. We don't do a lot of sours just because it's you're you're catering to such a tiny portion that beer lingers, and eventually like you just want it off tap. You want to rotate. You want to get something new on, and so we stick with what we do well. We stick with what the customer wants. But hazies and some of the other brighter, more floral, fruity, hoppy IPAs are kind of the new thing in the area. Like there's really not a lot of breweries like within this facility or within this area. CJ's is our closest. We got Milford, we got Drafting Table, and a few other ones that are kind of they say competitor, but our local friends.
Yeah.
It's such a unique area because it's hard to get to. It's hard to draw people to Commerce Township sometimes, and that's why I say we really do well with the locals and some of the towns that are near because it can get very congested at certain times of day. And I'm not from this area, so it's very frustrating for people like me. I don't travel to places like that normally because I hate so
Yeah.
much traffic.
I
And
know.
that's kind of I know a lot of people say, "Oh man, if it was a little bit later or a little bit earlier, I'd probably come out, but I'm not going to touch it during 3 to 6 o'clock." And I understand why completely.
So,
Yeah.
so have you guys gone into like, like I think Perrin does like the really heavy hitters. What are the ones out at Perrin? What
No
are the
rules.
no rules?
Yeah.
Do you guys do like a high octane beer there?
Yep, and it really all depends on our brewing schedule. Sometimes we overdo it and just don't have time to put one out, and we try to do one a year. Barrel age, I've had as high as I want to say it was 18% on
Wow.
one of my first ones, and yeah, again, it just depends on schedules because depends on timeline. When I did the 20 or 18 to 20% one, I mean, I boiled that beer for probably 6 hours on top of the day, and it just makes such a long day. When you're looking at a 15, 16 hour day cleaning up the next day, it's miserable on the brewer. It's
Right.
a lot easier when you have a crew because then you can push some of the responsibilities and the cleaning off on the second person. Even knockout, if you start early, when first person takes the first shift, and then second person comes in to help and take over the rest of the job, it makes it a lot easier to do those big beers. Um,
Yeah.
Barrel age, storing barrels is another problem. As we grow the brewery, it just makes it more difficult to tie up that space for 5 to 6 months. And I'm a stickler for leaving it minimum 5 months. I prefer 6 months, but it's all by taste.
Yeah.
If after that 5 months it doesn't taste ready, or we don't think it's right, it stays in for another month.
Nice. Perfect.
Yeah. To me,
Well,
that's the only way to do it, is do it right.
oh yeah. We were, celebrating the fact that you guys have made it 10 years, but then in the last year, but even in the last few weeks, there's been quite a few breweries that have closed.
Yeah.
And just curious, what your industry perspective is on, is this just a correction in the market, or is it just what do you think is the causes, and how is Kickstand navigating that?
I think a lot of it is just knowing your numbers, knowing your business, knowing your local area and location. All of us have had them dreams to where we come in and say, hey, I want to start my own brewery. You don't realize the paperwork and the other frustrations and the side of it to where I do know a few personal people that looked at it and said, I work in 80 hours a week. I can't keep up. and for
Right.
making less than I made working 40 hours somewhere. When it comes to you running and owning the business, sometimes you don't think of the shortfalls that you have for you and your family, and it just makes it so difficult to work all these hours and to see your dream just barely make it. Location's another one. If you're not in the right location, it's hard to draw people. Um, the further you are out away from population, the more you really depend on the same customers every time. And if something happens, it's just you're you're barely making it by. And why would you want to start putting yourself in debt for something? Yes, you're passionate about, but it's not taking care of your family. Um, 10 years ago, like you could sell just about anything. People were really eager on going to breweries. That was a meeting place. Bus tours and things like that were a lot more prevalent. You just don't see that as much as you see it even 5, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So I think the traveling just to see new places has slowed down. Um, location, like they say in real estate, I think is a huge one. If you're in a city to where you get walking traffic, or on a bicycle trail to where you can get by a little bit easier because you constantly have an influx of people coming in. It's not just the same 6 to 8 people coming in at night. I say that lightly. I mean, you could be a lot busier than that, but when
Yeah.
you got your regulars like that, that's all you see. It's hard to grow. It's hard to maintain what you have in a high standard.
Yeah.
It's sad to see a lot of them go, but I mean, this is I think the second shakeout. There was another one, oh, probably I'd say late 2008 to 2010. I think economy was the other part of it. When the economy started slowing down, people started losing manufacturing jobs. That was part of it. You just didn't see those people going out to restaurants and going anywhere. It was more staying home, trying to be more conservative with their own budgets.
Yeah. We think about it, right? Like you can't go out to dinner. You can go out to dinner and have, a meal and a drink, y- it's $60, $70 if it's cheap, right? Like
Right.
so you're like, okay, I can't only go out. I got to cut out a couple days or a day. I can't afford it. So I think that's part of it is we don't have as much, I mean, we don't have as much money as we used to,
Right.
right?
Right. And with cost of goods going up, it's hard not to raise your prices.
Yeah.
You have to, if you're going to be a smart business owner or business person, you have to live with the times, but you can't overinflate the cost to where it looks like they're not getting that deal.
Yeah.
You have to be real with the customers and say, look, I'm sorry, I don't want to, but like this is my bottom line. My I have to charge more, or
Right.
it's not worth me being business.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And do you feel like that, you know, the changing like palette of consumers is having an impact, because I yeah, I don't know this personally because everybody I know enjoys a beer here and there, but anecdotally or through, you know, articles in the news or whatever, they'll be saying, well, like younger people aren't drinking, or people are switching to cocktails, or they're doing this and that. But then I still see some people really dedicated, obviously, still going to Kickstand to get beers. So, what's your feeling about that? Do you feel like, and how do you address it at Kickstand? I'm assuming you have a variety of alternatives for folks.
Correct. We are a full bar, full everything. We do have our own brand of spirits. We have a brand of wine, cider, as well as beer. So we try to touch everybody and get out there and say, hey, we're not just a brewery. We're a place to come check us out, and you can bring your friends and family. They'll find something that they can enjoy as well. I think one of the things that really overall hurt breweries. And I think it's just more the growth of the alcohol industry. Spirits have been a really big one when distilleries and you could start distilling, change the dynamic of it's not just a brewery, but I think people really went on to the cocktail.
Mm.
Um, you and it's kind of the same thing craft beer came from is they were able to create drinks, they're able to create fun, and it just makes it fun. You get a good bartender that can create things and they enjoy their job. It's no different than brewing except for the workload's different. Anytime you can have fun and create, like I think the customer or consumer overall enjoys that aspect of it and can not only see and enjoy your creativity, but they can come experience you having fun doing your job. Where back in the day it was all about like, hey, you want a brewery tour? Like, or
Oh
can we
yeah.
get a brewery tour? You don't get that nearly as much as you used to back in the day. I think another thing that really hurt the alcohol industry in general is cannabis. Once they legalized cannabis for recreational use, you got people that were drinking just because that was the only vice that was legal to their job. And I think that overall, people, if they wanted to go that route, went that route. And it really changed the dynamic of, as you were saying, people not drinking as much, and the younger generation coming in and trying to be on a health kick and not drinking at all,
Yeah.
doesn't give you that next generation of clientele to come in and pretty much just keep the business rolling as strong as it used to be, or I should say the industry, not just the business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there is like I maybe I'm just noticing it more, but there is the non-beer crowd, but there's also the NAs, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they're they want to be in the crowd, but they're not going to drink. And for
Yeah.
whatever reason, like, hey, I'm not drinking right now because I'm trying to lose weight, or I'm not drinking right now because I got a health issue, or I just don't like I don't like the buzz. I don't
Yeah.
want to feel bad in the morning. So, what are your NA options there? I mean, do you
Um,
do something
we
different
could
for
do
your
any
NA?
type of we could do any type of mocktail. We tried to do a couple NA on the beer side, and it didn't go over that well overall to tie up a tap.
Yeah.
We did some hop water, and again we sold a few, and the people that drank it said they liked it. But in the same sense, it just wasn't worth taking off another product to fill that line, um, with only a few sales. You try to keep what moves, what sells, and if that product's just not moving, it's just not worth having it as an option. But we could do like a mocktail or any type of non-alcoholic fruit drink or beverage. Um, just depends on what you like.
So I'm hearing a lot of data-driven decisions
Yeah,
are happening there at Kickstand. Are you the person analyzing the data? Like, how does that work there?
it's a little bit of group meeting. The main owners, Scott and Brendan, and Andres, the GM, they're the decision makers. They're the ones that usually have everything in front of you. But overall, like it's a group meeting. They want to find out your opinion as well. But
That's nice.
they overall know what they're doing here, and they've got their numbers in front of them, and it's not as much of a weekly meetings anymore now that they're tied into this second project. But we try to get together and at least for a quick powwow, 10-15 minutes. Sometimes it's daily, sometimes it's weekly. Sometimes it's, hey, this is what's set up for the next couple of months. Let's just execute it and go. And trusting your employees and people in those positions to execute is the next step. You got to have the right people in place to be able to help you run your business without problems and without them having to stand over you and watch the whole time.
Nice. So I'm curious, from a brewer's perspective, like what's your favorite style to brew in terms of like beer styles?
IPAs are always part of my love. Stouts and porters are right there with it. Uh, Being creative, I think, is the number one thing for me that just still gives me that passion. Because I sit and think about it for days, if not weeks, and you got to order the grain, you got to get everything together, before you actually assemble it, and then it's 2 weeks to find out if you screwed up or not. So you can always kind of taste it in between as you're testing it, but it doesn't give you that final like aha moment until you taste it carbonated. Once you get it carbonated, like you really know, did I nail this or did I just do okay? And what do I have to change for the next time?
Yeah.
Um, there there were a lot more times at different breweries to where you had a little bit more leverage or abilities to recreate and have more fun. Being this is more of a flagship brewery, and we really stick to our flagships as much as possible. It doesn't give you that freedom to just go, hey, I'm going to brew this now, this tomorrow, and just make creative styles, because that's just not what always works for us.
Yeah. And so, thinking about your just day-to-day, week-to-week job, what's the most rewarding part of all that? Is it working out like the problems in a particular batch, or is it just like putting everything together and watching it come to fruition? What is it for you?
That is a huge part, is when you put something together and it comes out great. That's a huge enjoyment. Overall, like when you get to talk to your customers, when you get to hear good things, good feedback. I mean, that's always great to be either praised or feel like you're doing your job right. Is when you get that praise from your customers. I always enjoy going out front and kind of chatting with people. Part of the job that I have is being I live about an hour away. I get here early and I leave early. I
Yeah.
try to beat the traffic as much as possible. So that's why my schedule is a little bit earlier, and I'm usually out by 3 and go from there. If I get here earlier, there's times I'm out 1:30, and there's times where I'll hit a couple places or facilities and drop off some cans on the way home just to try to rep the product and just somehow bring in some more support on the outside and get a product on other places. It's
Yeah.
always nice to go into a place and you see one or two of your beers on tap and customers there enjoying them as well.
So, what is the distribution for Kickstand?
That's
Do you guys
yeah.
do it yourself, or is it?
No, we're with Imperial
Okay.
Distributing. Um, we're statewide footprint, and we don't do a lot of like major sales ourselves. We let them handle that aspect of it, and it's more word of mouth. I think that's getting us out there more than anything, and their sales force actually helps push us in certain areas. We've had a really big kind of insurgents up in the UP, which it blows me away. It's like, okay, like who the hell are we, and who the hell's going
Right.
up there to push us? But I'm seeing our beer all the way up to Calumet, Marquette, Escanaba, Ironwood. It's just really cool to see when your beer grows and you get untapped reviews on that from those areas. It's just really cool to see.
Yeah.
Vacation time, we do really well on the west side of the state, Grand Rapids North. Seeing a lot of our beer up in kind of like northwest part of the state, and a lot of the Hopcats and the other ones have picked us up, and it's been a staple for us. They keep us on, and it's great to see.
Yeah, I think I've seen your guys' beer over at the Session Room here in Ann Arbor, and
Yep.
I'm pretty sure I saw it the last time we were in Grand Rapids over at Hopcat.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So are you in Wisconsin at all or outside of the state?
State only, so Michigan
Okay.
footprint only.
Okay.
Yep. We had talked about it, but right now it's better to try to keep everything internal, and not really send your kegs out. When you look at the footprint it takes for the kegs and other equipment, if you're going to own your own kegs, you might not see that keg for a year.
Yeah.
So when you look at
Wow.
that overall, it's better to rent kegs and send them out as a kind of a one-way thing. But you never know the condition of those kegs coming in. Are there sours? I know people that take the spear out and put hops, a bag of hops, or seen uh, chocolate nibs and cocoa nibs and things, and you can hear them rattle around in the keg, and like it's not your keg. What the hell do you care? And like there's
Right.
breweries that still do this, and it's overly frustrating when you try to clean that and you fill your beer with it to know that there's an infection due to something else that was in the keg. You
Yeah.
see it all the time. If you don't have the proper keg washer, it's miserable. And the larger manufacturer that you are, you can afford $500,000 piece of equipment that's self-automated. One person can run it and run hundreds of kegs at a time. A small facility like us, we're a three-head keg washer, and it takes anywhere from 12 to 15 minutes running three kegs. You
Yeah.
have to wash the outside by hand. Everything is physical labor. You're picking it up on keg washer, letting it cycle, taking it off and stacking it in the corner, waiting for fill.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm curious. That made me think of a question related to volume. Like, so what? How much beer do you guys brew in a year?
Anywhere between 700 to 800 barrels per year. I'm kind of giving you a loose average just
Yeah.
because it really just depends on the year.
Yeah.
This year started really slow. And I think it's because we hit it so hard last year. Um, distro, for some reason, has really slowed down. I think that's just overall economy. It's
Mhm.
not just our brewery, but there's a lot of places that are really getting hit on distro. Talking to a few other friends in the industry, they're 20+% down in distribution alone.
Wow.
Um, and I think the other factor in that is you get places like Founders Bells and the big guys that when they run on their brand, they run two or three of those brands. That's taking up shelf space. So any type of can or bottle, like you got to compete with those guys, and you just can't with price.
Yeah.
And like when I was at 51 North, we were doing about the same, about 800 barrels a year. Bell's Brewing Company did an expansion that they did 25 800-barrel tanks.
Oh my God.
How can you compete with that volume
Yeah.
when every fill that they do is your yearly production?
Yeah.
And sometimes you go to bars or other restaurants and they say, well, you're so much more than Bell's or Founders, and like you can't compete with those numbers.
Yeah.
Your grain and your material costs are a tenth of what we're paying because it's such a low volume that they have to charge us more, or they have to bag it instead of being totes and silos of grain or train cars of grain, um, pallets of hops instead of a box of hops. Like it just makes such a difference
Yeah.
when you look at overall volume of the larger manufacturers, and they're doing 1 million barrels a year. We're doing 800 barrels a year.
Yeah.
So when then just to kind of give you the lingo, when I say a barrel, that's two kegs. So it's 31 U.S. gallons is a barrel. Each keg is around 15 and a half. So we're doing 12 to 1400 or 1400 to 1600 kegs a year overall.
Wow.
Yeah,
Crazy. Yeah.
and we can keg, and yeah,
So that makes me think of another thing in relationship. It it makes it sound, and you can let me know if I'm on the right track. But when a brewery of your size, it makes it even that much more critical to sell on premise and have a
yeah,
really thriving on premise business because you really it's hard to compete against those larger breweries
absolutely.
in the
And as long
state.
as you make your margins, I look at it two different ways. Like you still have to make your margins on your profit. Equipment cost is unreal. I've seen it firsthand where I've watched, and I'm not going to disclose the distributor, but they literally rolled a keg out on another one from the truck and said, well, not going to hurt my back. So equipment comes back damaged. It's a very challenging thing.
Yeah.
In a small brewery, like you can't just write off that equipment and throw it away. You've got a hell of an investment. I need to fill it X amount of times to pay that off, get the return on investment of that keg. It's very difficult on a small scale to reap that profit reward once you get enough cooperage built up to where it's your getting cycle, you're getting your kegs in and out, you're reusing them, your return on investment comes back. But your minimal profit, overall. When you got, people coming into your place, you're able to turn that keg into a pint. Your service is the big part of it too. People are willing to pay a little bit more to come into a restaurant. And,
Yeah.
the other tough thing is on the shelf. Like I was saying, like I'm just using Founders and Bells as examples,
Right.
but when they can do such a large overall cost reduction, they can sell their kegs for the same as some of your I hate the word domestic because they're you know
Yeah.
the cheap beer, the Budweisers, the
Yeah.
Michelobes,
The
all
mega
the
brews.
Miller.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean you can't compete with those guys because they're at such a grand scale. Same thing that those larger breweries have to deal with the enormous breweries. So when you can compare to them or compete with them and get your kegs closer to that, like people are always going to take that first and foremost because they're going to make more profit at their bar. And unless you have a customer coming in directly asking for your product, it makes it difficult for them when they've got, say 6 or 8 taps to justify putting you on at a higher ounce cost, than it is to bring on somebody like Founders or Bells that people know them. They know who they are. They know
Yeah.
that Two Hearted is going to be very consistent. For them to take a chance on craft beers right now at this price, it's a challenge, and I've heard many a customers say that, like, well, I've been burnt before. It's hard for me to go out and experiment or try new things sometimes because I might not like it. Why would
Yeah.
I want to pay $7-8 a pint for something that I may or may not like? I know I like this. I know it's consistent, and that's just another hurdle that we have to kind of jump on small breweries.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was thinking about consistency, and I've been to a few of the Michigan Brewers Guild conferences, and they always have, I think it's either Bell's or somebody from Bell's that does like the quality control program where they, do you have one there? I mean, if you're consistent, you must have a quality control program there at Kickstand. But like, what if you can't get the same grain? Or what if one of your ingredients changes? Like, how do you manage that there? At,
That's just the magic of the position that I'm in, and knowing the industry. Um, Tasting, you can bring in whole ingredients and taste, but a lot of times it's going on your experiences, your overall understanding of what grains what. You can do many of things on the backside your average customer would never even know. I have had that happen many a times where you couldn't get Baird's grain or the one English grain, but there's another English grain. So you just kind of pick and choose between those. Um, Same with hops. You know, maybe my local grower can't get me what I need. I try to find something from the same location or same area. Say it's a Michigan hop, I try to find another Michigan hop to substitute. And sometimes you just have to do what you have to do, and your customers will let you know if they taste the difference. But that's just the magic that brewers possess. So you've got to be understanding of product. You have to be understanding of ingredients, and sometimes it's just the magic of what we do.
You
And
mentioned Michigan hops. I'm curious, do you notice any, like, from your customers, any, I guess, uh, brand affinity, or I don't know if that's the right word, but basically that they seek out Michigan. When they see that you've brewed with Michigan hops, they're like, "Oh, I want that." Do you see
I
any of
think
that or not recently?
I think it's rare anymore. I do think there was a big insurgence on Michigan made, Michigan everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Probably a good 10 years ago. It was seeked out a lot more than it is nowadays. Nowadays they don't care. They think it's cool, but in the same sense, if they don't think it tastes great or if it's what tickles their fancy, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's nearly as much as it used to be. And you're seeing other states kind of take that same thing that we did 5, 10 years ago. Like Ohio's really killing it. Pennsylvania really does well with it. North Carolina is just absolutely killing it. And I think they're really focused on local, down in regions like that. But I think it's a cycle overall.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we're at a weird spot in this industry, so yeah, I think we're in the downward cycle.
So when you look forward, using your brewer's crystal ball, uh, like 5 or 10 years, what do you see happening going forward? Do you see, like, just everybody, like, little tiny pubs popping up because that's what's, people want to be even more local, or is it something else that you think is going to
I
evolve?
think the days of being a home brewer and saying I'm starting a brewery are gone, and I think that's what really pushed the overall drive in the industry the last 15 years is people like myself that said, you know what, like I really like doing this as a hobby, like let me turn it into a career. But I think anytime you do that, you find out that it's more work than you could ever imagine. Sometimes hobbies become frustrating, and it's like I just want to go back to fun.
Yeah.
When you're brewing on the scale, like it's sometimes not always fun because there's a lot of heavy lifting. There's I can't tell you how many times a day like you're throwing kegs around, which are empty 25 pounds a piece. When they're full, they're more like 160 pounds a piece, and like rolling them in the cooler. I reorganize the cooler twice a week just to accommodate as much beer or product that I put in it. Canning days are 12 to 14-hour days sometimes if you do a full run. It's a job of passion. You either love
Yeah.
it or you hate it, and I think the day of saying I'm going to turn my hobby into a passionate job are definitely done once you realize the amount of effort and work it takes, and then you have to turn around and do paperwork for another 30 hours as well. It's not as exciting to get people to want to start these businesses. But I think if you're established, I think if you're in a good location, which again I'm going to go back on location, you really need a lot of walking traffic or a lot of parking space or just amount of people to frequent, and even if they don't go to your place but once a week, there's enough to kind of take that needing that same person to come in 4 or 5 times a week just to succeed.
Yeah.
You're going to see the places that have set up well, that know how to manage their business and do it well, stick around. But I think we're definitely going to see a few more fade away. I think the larger manufacturers, they're so well off. I mean, most of their equipment by now have already been paid off. They're going out of state to recoup anything that they've lost in the state. As they start buying and intermingling within different breweries, now Shorts is not statewide. They're across the states. Like places like Founders have partnered up with the brewery in Colorado. I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but like now you can see Founders anywhere on the West Coast. Due to you can brew that product at either facility. You cut out that distribution from Michigan to Oregon. You cut out many of aspects as you grow. You partner with other people. And that's the same with Bell's. They went with New Belgium, I think, bought them out.
Mm-hmm.
So now you got a place in North Carolina and Colorado that can brew all Bell's product, and it saves so much time, effort, money as a corporation to get that product to the end of the world for the most part. I mean, you could send it to Europe, they could send it to California, Oregon, and it's impossible for somebody our size to even consider that.
Yeah, yeah. So it sounds like really it's like for established breweries like Kickstand, it's like steady as you go, keep doing what you're doing. Love the thing that you're doing, right? Because that's
Yep.
the key. If you don't love it, you're not going to do it right. So, and then just keep making awesome stuff.
Yeah, and you really don't have to overdo it. Just come in. This is who we are. This is what we do, and tweak your business along the way as your customers' tastes or change. You got to grow with them.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're tired of a couple dishes that you have. You start moving along. Find out what intrigues them, and how can you bring them back, or how can you get them to try new things. And that's part of like weekend specials. And for me, that's the fun for me is like putting out new beers.
Yeah.
One of the problems that a lot of brewers fight with the owners and kind of like the upper staff is like, hey, like I want to try something new. I want to do different things, but consistency, it's the best method sometimes. So falling in love with certain brands are troublesome, but also rewarding when it comes to keeping that same business.
Yeah.
In distribution, you got to look at your customers are used to, and I'll just use this brand as kind of a example, the peanut butter porter. When we came out with that and canned it, like it took off. And it's like, okay, well, I guess we got to do this every year. It wanes a little bit, but it also takes a tap space for a couple months. That's something you could have another brew on to try experiments and to try other things. And if you get to a point, now we do a shandy and a grapefruit IPA in the summer, and you get locked into the brands, it's hard to be creative when you try to keep that same seasonal footprint along distro, as well as you get customers that really want that brand back. And when you fall in love with that brand and you flagship it, it's a lot more difficult to get outside that box.
Yeah. Speaking of peanut butter porter, I just love those.
Yeah, I kind of fell away from some of the flavors,
Yeah.
or just my personal palate.
Yeah.
Try to go back to more traditional styles for me that really light me up anymore. Back in the day, like I really kind of felt that I was on that forefront of the craft side to where you could put out just about anything. At 51 North, I had several bars that they wanted a different keg every week and every 2 weeks, and it's so hard to be creative to come up with that many different beers by sometimes flavorings. I made a caramel beer, which it was a caramel forward beer, all caramel malts, and we decided, well, we could do some fun stuff with it and be creative. How about we use cocoa nibs, pecans, and I forget what else, another spice, and make it like a pecan turtle truffle, or make it very like a dessert beer. Um, One of the first shows that it was a fall fest down in Eastern Market, and I had owners of Slows come up to me and say, I want this beer. and we never think about, trying to distribute or put it on the market. That's not what that was meant for. It was meant for a flashbang, something different, something new.
Right.
And then that's a whole nother, I guess, problem to solve is how do you get it on the market? We were using corny kegs to be able to do that because it was soaking the cocoa nibs and the pecans, and it's just not practical with a Sankey keg. You're not taking it apart every time. So we ended up getting them to change their draft lines over to one corny keg. So we were able to use corny kegs and kind of like hit that market. But I made anywhere from red currant Belgian beer to blueberry lemon IPA. I mean, I could go on and on. Like I had so many different ones, and at some point you're just like, I can't think of anymore. Like I'm spent. But it was amazing. Like Governor's Quarter in Bay City was one of the bars, and like they killed it. They went through 5 to 10 gallons a week. Sometimes they would say, "I want 2 kegs of this," or what new can you give me? Just be creative. And,
Wow.
yeah, it was great, but it's a logistical nightmare sometimes. And your distributors hate you for it because they got to put out a different memo and do paperwork
Yeah.
through the state and the federal government about that product. And if it's a one-off, like you've got people just paperwork, paperwork, and I'm sure they probably hated me for that. But yeah, I'm over it.
So we've got one more question, and so we're wrapping. We're at that hour. Can you believe it? We've been talking for almost an hour.
No, it went quick.
I know it goes so fast. I always think that like it's going to be an hour, but then it feels like 10 minutes. It always goes so fast. Is there anything that we didn't ask that you were hoping we would ask, or a topic we didn't talk about, or a shout out you want to give?
Yeah, like I would love to give a shout out to the people I learned from, Bill Wamby, Conrad Connor, were who I mentored under at Redwood Lodge. And when I got on my own at the Baraboo, it was amazing the support that I got from the Metro. And if I miss anybody, I'm going to apologize to them. But people like Dan Rogers, who he was Big Rock Chop House, started Griffin Claw, Ray Sherwood, the Coonan brothers. There's just so many people that were just so overwhelmingly just generous and willing to come out and help you. Um, I can't tell you how many times I said, "Well, call me during brew day. We'll come out and figure this problem out." And it was an amazing support from the entire industry. You don't see that nearly as much. I think you see a little bit more competition, and that I think changed the industry probably in the last 10 years. But like it was such a supportive thing. You had a lot more like brewers meetings or brewers get-togethers. Todd Parker was another one in there. Rochester Mills. I mean, I can go on and on. Like we got together and we had a pint, or we went to like one of the breweries in that local area, and all of us just had a great time. And it was sharing information. There was no, like I say, competition. Like I would give somebody my recipe, come brew it with them. I didn't care because it's going to be different at your facility than it is mine.
Yeah.
But it was just the enjoyment of working with people that all had the passion that we did. Was just absolutely amazing. And when we first got into that industry or that side, like I started 51 North in Lake Orion, and that was just the love coming down from everybody was just unbelievable. Can't say enough, and then sometimes hitting the awards kind of drive your just, I guess, drive you and want you to go further and want you to be passionate, more passionate.
Yeah.
At Redwood, like Bill Wamby he's probably still the number one awarded brewer in Michigan. He's at Tilted Axis in Lapeer, right down the road from my house, and he's still winning GABF and World Beer Cup at 70. So
Nice.
the guy's killing it.
Yeah.
It's great to see somebody like that you mentor under that still has that passion. Um, I'm trying to get these guys to let me do a little bit more competitions, and we're hoping. I'm hoping that we can be in the next either World Beer Cup or GABF. Not
Awesome.
this year, but hopefully things will
Wow.
settle down for us a little bit. But I took a silver with Redwood at World Beer Cup in 2010, and I want to say it was 2009 where we got a GABF, and it drive my passion so hard. And then when we got 51 North, we were 6 months out of the gate, and I had a World Beer Cup gold, and it's just like, who the hell are we? we're on the national scene now. Like, and like we're tiny, you know.
Yeah.
But put yourself on that world stage was truly amazing.
Awesome.
But yeah, like most brewers that you meet and greet, they're great people. Um, I've had amazing conversations. Occasionally, you get people who just like anything, you don't click.
Yeah.
And I think as the industry kind of grows more competitive, I think you're getting more and more of that. And the younger people that came in didn't understand the I hate this word, but the brotherhood and the family that we felt overall as brewers, and we all loved it. That was great.
Fantastic. Well, we've got one last question for you, Adam, and that is, what is your perfect Michigan day? So, where would you go? What would you do? And what beer would you finish it off with?
That is a tough question. Probably I'd have to say Grand Marais is my perfect place.
All right.
I proposed to my wife at Grand Marais. I am a very simple person, and sometimes looking at rocks is just fascinating for me.
Yeah.
Um, as far as for beers, like Czech Pils is one of my favorite, just relaxing drinking beers. If not, I would say more of a lighter IPA. Um, I hate that session IPAs aren't as big on the market as they used to be because I love having a few of them
Yeah.
and not just the one where you get just absolutely blasted if you drink several.
Yeah.
But sitting on the beach drinking a lighter IPA, um, Czech Pills, anything that's flavorful but yet not gonna end your night quickly.
Yeah.
And nowadays, like I'm one of the bad people that are kind of getting into more of the whiskey side. So I'd probably nightcap with a little bit of a rye whiskey. But Grand Marais is my favorite overall place. Love to sit on Lake Superior when the flies aren't out. There's just something that brings you back to nature. Your phones don't work, so you're off your digital devices. You're actually being able to enjoy the nature. Sunset, sunrises on the beach, or yeah, the best for me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Grand Marais.
Yeah.
It's my favorite.
Fantastic.
It's just an amazing place.
Yeah.
And, the town's quaint, but to me, I want to be outside of town on the beach looking for agates or looking for Lights is kind of my nerd that I've been into lately.
Yeah.
When I nerd on something, I nerd hard.
Well, yeah, and you've got such great trails. Friends of ours, Robin and Bill, they have a Airbnb out there, and actually, Robin works at the uh, um, what's the name
Lake
of
Superior
the
Brewing.
Lake Superior Brewing.
Oh, nice.
Um,
Might have to get
and
that contact.
yeah, and she and Bill took us on this great walk. Was it last year? We basically went out by the lighthouse out there off of in Picture Rocks, and then down onto the beach. And oh man, it was
Yeah, we went down the log slide.
yeah,
We actually went down the log slide because you could walk into town on the beach
yeah,
because you can't always do that, but the water was really low.
Right.
And we walked on the beach back into Grand Marais from the log slide, and it's beautiful. It was
It,
like a magical day.
it was so
Yeah,
good.
there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
Nothing like it at all.
Awesome. Well, Adam, thank you so much for being on the Life in Michigan podcast. We really appreciate it, and we're looking forward to coming out and getting some beers over at Kickstand.
Yeah, please let me know when you guys do. I would love to have a pint with both of you, and appreciate you guys, excuse me, having me on. And
Yeah.
it's been a fun conversation.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Take care.
See you guys.
Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to hit subscribe on your favorite podcast service to catch every episode of Life in Michigan. Help us spread the word by rating the show, sharing it with your friends, your neighbors, your family, your mail carrier. Share it with everybody, and leave a comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Stay connected by following us on our website and social media. This is a Life in Michigan production. Until next time, take care and have a fantabulous day in Michigan.